Every year, millions of dollars are stolen from thousands of Americans, victims of an ever-increasing threat, investment scams.
It's just so easy to be taken.
John, who asked us not to use his real name, is probably the last person you'd expect to be a victim of investment fraud. That's because he's a stockbroker, and although he's extremely cautious with his own clients, he put himself at risk.
Well, initially they wanted $165,000 because that's what each unit was. And I said, no, I'm not doing that.
What John was being offered was a chance to invest in oil and gas. And although he initially said no, to a seasoned con artist, no has a whole different meaning.
No means yes in this business to us. And usually you have to get a guy to say no at least 10 times before they finally say yes.
As a former top salesman, this man made millions of dollars for a crooked oil and gas company. Because of who and what he knows, he asked not to be identified.
The three main things that I looked for in looking at a potential investor is money, interest, and control. I was very successful in this business because I was fearless on the phone. I wasn't afraid to ask the questions.
Asking lots of questions gives the con criminal lots of control. He can find out how much money and how much interest the victim has. But it also reveals something very crucial, especially when it comes to oil and gas scams. Is the victim risk tolerant?
If they're risk tolerant, then they take risk. And if you take risk, you invest in the oil and gas business.
I consider myself to be a relatively aggressive investor.
Research shows aggressive investors are prime targets. So John continued to get calls, always fueled with urgency.
Well, he said the units are going very quickly, and if you don't get them now, they won't be available.
And to sweeten the deal, flashy promotional materials arrived in the mail.
The company sent me all these nice, glossy, four-color brochures that tend to make you think that they're legit, because producing all those documents is a very expensive venture. Someone spent some money.
Spending money to steal money from victims is a common ploy. And since so many victims keep up with the world news, con artists capitalize on current events.
The fact that oil prices were beginning to soar really is the clincher. Because they moved up a little bit when I put in the first one. They moved up again before I put in the second one. And after that, oil prices went through the roof. And so I was elated.
Feeling elated is what con artists call putting their victims in ether, a euphoric state that plays on hopes and desires.
Everybody wants to be an oil man. Everybody wants to be a J.R. Ewing from Dallas, you know.
In hindsight, I've taken too much risk.
Too much risk has cost John, too. He lost $40,000, half of which he borrowed, to invest in a major oil and gas deal. That scam stole $14 million from investors, and if he's lucky, John will get back less than 2% of his original investment, maybe $600. But it's still not over for him, because once you've been scammed, your name is on a do-call list.
Guys who've invested in the oil and gas business before, no matter if they've lost or not, are generally the best just simply because they're risk tolerant.
And right in the middle of our interview, with our cameras rolling, John gets a friendly call.
They couldn't set pump jacks. They couldn't put in the electrical. Yes. All right, how are you? Here's one.
How's the weather down there?
Cold.
Quite cold here, too.
This time, John's in control.
How'd you get my name?
You're on a list of accredited investors with an interest in oil and gas.
After a few minutes, it's time to turn John over to the boss.
If you have just a minute, I can transfer you
Okay,
to my
sure.
vice president if you'd like.
Sure.
What you're hearing is an actual oil and gas pitch, using every trick in the book.
In today's times, and in such a volatile market too, at that, more and more people are starting to turn their attention towards oil and gas. You could very well see a 45–50% return on your investment under 12 months. You know, your annual gross return in 360 days, okay, mind you, you're paid this monthly, is $540,000.
After promising to mail out information, the salesman tries to set a date to continue the deal.
Can we get together next Monday about 2 or 3 o'clock?
This is one date John won't keep. But knowing what to do now, after he's been conned out of $40,000, comes with a heavy cost.
I'm very frustrated. And I wouldn't mind punishing them a little bit, just to be honest with you.
Investment fraud is on the rise because con criminals are always one step ahead, always finding new ways to steal your money, your peace of mind, and even your retirement.
The money that I put into the oil and gas investment was not money I could afford to lose. It was for my retirement.
To protect your hard-earned money, visit SaveInvest.org, where you'll find a wealth of information and online tools. BrokerCheck can tell you if an investment professional is legally registered to sell securities and if they have any complaints or judgments against them. On other parts of SaveInvest.org, you can find out if a particular investment is registered with the SEC and other legal authorities. There's a link to the Washington State Department of Financial Institutions, where you can determine if an investment or salesperson is legal in Washington. You'll also find tips on how to ask the right questions and be a savvy investor. That's SaveInvest.org.